If you're a Christian entering retirement, you've probably asked yourself the question many times, what kind of legacy am I actually leaving, and will it honor God? Because if you're anything like the families that I serve, you're not just thinking about money, you're thinking about the future of your children, the spiritual direction of your family, and whether the resources that God has entrusted to you will be used in a way that reflects and honors Him. So today in this video, I wanted to walk you through a framework and a way of thinking about legacy that goes far beyond and far deeper than wills, trusts, and account balances. This isn't just about transferring assets, though doing that well and efficiently and most importantly in the way that you want to is really important. This is also about transferring your faith, your values, and your purpose to those that you love most. And I really believe with all my heart that retirement is a very powerful season of your life where God can really work in your life to shape and transform the generation that comes behind you. When a lot of people think about legacy, they think about it a bit more simplistically, just around money, around assets, around who gets what. But scripture gives us a much broader picture about what legacy could and maybe should look like. In Proverbs chapter 13, I'm sure many of you may know this verse, but a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And a lot of you, including myself here, jump to just thinking about leaving a monetary legacy for our families. But the Bible never limits inheritance to just dollars and deeds. Because the truth is, and I've seen this happen before with families that we're working with, but a financial inheritance passed along without there being a spiritual or relational inheritance to serve as the foundation can actually really harm a family. And I've sat across from too many retirees who have said things like, I don't want my money to ruin my kids, or I don't want them to fight about the money, or I want to bless them and not burden them. I want to instill in them a good work ethic. I want to pass along this money to them, but I don't want that to impact their work ethic or how hard they work. So that's exactly why you need a bigger and broader vision of legacy that honors God. So let's talk through 3 parts of a God-honoring legacy and how you can start building that today. The first legacy Christian retirees will leave, and I'll argue that this is the most important one, is your legacy of faith that you pass on to your family. And a lot of you are probably already doing this, living intentionally, loving your kids well, passing along that faith and that love of God in the way that you treat them, the way you live your life, leading by example. And because of the way you live, your children already know what you believe. But some additional questions to be asking yourself is, do your kids know how God has been faithful to you throughout your life? Why have you made certain decisions throughout your life? What convictions guided your marriage, your career, your finances? It's such a gift that you can give to your kids to just let them in on what your journey has been like with God, how you've grown with God, how you've wrestled with God, just what that testimony is on how He's been faithful, how He's been good, how He's been guiding you along in your journey so far. A couple practical exercises that you could do here is you could write a faith letter. So something your children and your grandchildren can hold on to, where you're answering questions sort of like we were just walking through. Maybe you're just writing out your full testimony and how God has been faithful in your life. Maybe you're sharing things like when you first encountered Christ, things that you learned through various sufferings in your life, what you pray your family will cling to once you have passed in this life here, and then what scriptures maybe that you have built your life on and that really have impacted you throughout your walk. In addition to writing a faith letter, maybe you just are recording these same things so you can pass along those recordings, or just being intentional about telling these stories to your family, just finding a mode and method of communication that works well for you so that these stories and testimonies don't die with you and your family can hear and be encouraged by your faith, your story. And you would be amazed how many adult children treasure these stories way more than anything monetary and physical that you will pass on to them. The second thing you're going to be passing on, and I mean this is similar to faith, but I guess it's more of a byproduct of faith, but this is a legacy of values. You're passing on how you would like your children to be living their lives. And there are 2 parts that I like to think about with passing on values to your children. One is you're setting the framework for how you would like your children to be operating in the world. What type of humans are they going to be? What kind of value are they going to add to the world? Of course, you can't control how your children are going to grow up, but you can help to instill those values in them through your faith, through the way that you honor and serve God, but then also giving them a foundation of values so that when you are entrusting resources to them with their inheritance, what do you hope that they will accomplish with that once you are gone? Many Christian retirees don't actually tell their kids that they want them to use that money wisely, that they want them to remain generous, that they want them to avoid debt, just passing on a lot of these good, financially sound pieces of wisdom. So the opportunity here with that is to define what values that you feel like should guide your family's stewardship. In a few different ways that this can play out, you can have a family stewardship meeting where you maybe aren't necessarily showing account balances, though that can be helpful if you feel like that is a necessary piece for your family to know. You can be discerning on that. Some families find that to be helpful, others find that to be a distraction. But the purpose more so for that meeting is to communicate purpose and expectations with a coming inheritance, sitting down and doing some charitable planning. So maybe looking at doing some donor advised funds, family foundations, different charitable trusts, using some type of vehicle to help your family members remain generous with the funds that you are passing along. Also, that helps to increase your impact, helps to hopefully teach kids and family members generosity. Also, some other byproducts that we don't want to make the focus, but are also really great, getting to reduce taxes, things like that. And then some additional homework for you here in looking to leave an inheritance to your children is just making sure that you're intentional in how you do that. There are some retirees who want to leave equal amounts to each kid. There are some who want to leave purpose-driven amounts, so maybe they splice that up a little bit differently, while others don't maybe care or feel they need to leave as much money to their kids, and they're more focused on funding ministries and missions that they love. Maybe their kids are already set up really well, and they're wanting to be generous, or honestly, most people, some combination of all of these things. So you just want to make sure that you're being intentional in doing what you want to do, what you feel God is leading you to do, not necessarily doing what other people in your circle are doing. So doing what is best for you and your family. So we've started with the legacy of faith, went to a legacy of values, and now we're going to talk about the part that most people start with. So we're orienting these in the proper order. But lastly here, we're talking about a legacy of provision, actually. How are we going to structure the financial piece of this puzzle wisely? And it's really important that this is the last step, because you want the financial piece to follow your faith and your values, not to have the financial piece influence your faith and values. That doesn't feel like maybe that's that big of a difference, but I promise when you're walking through these steps, it makes all the difference. So here are 3 helpful questions that I find it extremely beneficial to be thinking about when knowing how to structure your financial legacy in a God-honoring way. So 1, how do you protect your family unity? Making sure that your estate documents prevent any conflict, any confusion, any emotional decision-making, and then any permanent relational damage. You're just wanting to take all of the confusion out of the matter, stating what you want, and making it clear why maybe you've made those decisions to help just protect the unity of the family. I know some retirees tend to think, well, my kids can figure it out, they're grown adults. And that's fine, but if you're really wanting to leave a powerful legacy to your family, what better way to show them your faith, your values, than to make this process just as easy as it can be for them, and just set them up as well as possible so that they can continue to be loving God, loving one another, and then loving their neighbor. Second piece here is, how do you reduce unnecessary taxes? So Christian stewardship here includes being wise with your tax planning. So effective tools here can include having trusts in place, or looking at making sure you have the proper beneficiaries set up on various different accounts, and then looking at other effective planning methods with your charitable planning, doing strategic Roth conversions, looking at utilizing donor advised funds, all of these things to make sure that you are having the most impact with your dollars and not giving more to the IRS than you are supposed to. And then lastly here, how do you bless and not burden your children with the inheritance that you're passing on to them? Some children handle money well and others struggle. So making sure that you are setting them all up in a way that they are not being burdened by what is being given to them. So maybe that includes just building out some guardrails with different trust language, or maybe you have some sort of staged inheritance where the money is passed along to them in chunks, different age ranges. Maybe that means you're giving money to them while you are still living. Multiple benefits there. You're getting to enjoy the feeling of giving to them and seeing them utilize it well. And then also you get to be a wise counselor, helping them to spend that money well. Maybe that's funding education or different charitable bequests. So there are different ways to slice that to ensure that that money is being utilized well, while also giving that money to your children in hopes that they will be empowered to make great decisions with it as well. Because leaving that financial legacy is not about control, it's just about protection. You just want to make sure that you're creating freedom and not creating any additional dependence there. So tying it all together and summarizing what a God-honoring legacy looks like for the Christian retiree, it's passing along your faith, so your story, your testimony, what your walk with Christ has looked like, instilling that to your family, passing along your values, what you hope your family will carry forward, setting that foundation for them for how they can steward the assets that you're giving to them down the road well, and then putting a plan together for the actual financial inheritance, helping your family to steward those assets while setting them up well so that can be a blessing and not a burden. And if you're watching this and thinking, I would really like to leave some type of legacy to my family, but I don't really know where to start, well, that's where my team can come in. This is what we do with Christian families every day of the week here. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, wow, I would like to leave some type of legacy to my family, but I'm not necessarily sure where to start, well, that's exactly what my team does every day here. We're helping Christian families to plan out their retirement, plan out their legacy, how they're wanting to steward their finances well to honor God. So if you would like some help walking through that, you can click the link below in the bio to schedule a free financial planning call with myself. We can walk through your situation. And if you found this video helpful and would like additional content like this down the road, please make sure to like and subscribe so that you can see future videos and so that other people like you can find these videos as well. And just remember that money is a tool. It's not the end goal. It's just the means that allows you to live a fulfilling life, to live a life that honors God. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will see you in the next video. Take care.